Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a little book haul talking about the books that I have bought in the past six weeks, I think. And there's quite a stack, so I figured it was time for me to film a little haul video, show you what I have been intrigued enough with to purchase recently. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lillian and I like to talk about books and writing. If you're intrigued by the books in today's video, or if you just like the vibes in general, I would love to have you subscribe and we can talk about books together. But without further ado, let's get on into these, shall we? The first book I have here is Detransition Baby by Torrey. This came out in 2021. I had this book vaguely on my radar, and then after posting my book review of Paul Takes the Form of a Mortal Girl, there was someone who commented, I believe their name was Iris, left a comment asking for me to review this book in the future. Ask and you shall receive. This is described as, quote, a whip-smart debut about three women, transgender and cisgender, whose lives collide after an unexpected pregnancy forces them to confront their deepest desires around gender, motherhood, and sex. This provocative debut is about what happens at the emotional, messy, vulnerable corners of womanhood that platitudes and good intentions can't reach. Torrey brilliantly and fearlessly navigates the most dangerous taboos around gender, sex, and relationships, gifting us a thrillingly original, witty, and deeply moving novel. I'm hoping to get to this one this summer and will definitely be putting up a review of it once I have read it. The next three books that I will mention are actually ones that I bought on my recent trip to Budapest, not in the city exactly, but in the Dublin airport when we had our layover there. And I just happened to peruse one of the sort of little kiosk stores, and they had a really good book selection, and also they had a number of books in some editions that I have really been drawn to. The first one being The Plague by Albert Camus, a moment for this gorgeous cover. But this was originally published in 1947. My copy is translated from the French by Robin Buss. The Plague is reportedly considered an existential classic, despite Camus' objection to it being labeled as such. The novel itself has been read as an allegorical treatment of the French resistance to the Nazi occupation during World War II. Quote, in Oran, a coastal town in North Africa, the plague begins as a series of portents, unheeded by the people. It gradually becomes an omnipresent reality, obliterating all traces of the past and driving its victims to almost unearthly extremes of suffering, madness, and compassion. I have been wanting to tiptoe into the world of writers in this vein, so we'll see how this goes. Next is a book that you may have seen in my recent reads wrap-up, and that is Goodbye to Berlin by Christopher Isherwood. This was originally published in 1939. It's a semi-autobiographical series of sketches written by Isherwood based on his time in Berlin in the 1930s during the ever-growing presence of the Nazi regime. If you're interested in hearing a little bit more about my thoughts on this book, I will link my recent reads up in the cards for you. I've been contemplating doing a standalone review of this book. Let me know if that's something that you would be interested in watching. And the final book that I purchased in the Dublin airport, The Waves by Virginia Woolf. This is a lovely edition. Y'all, I done goofed. This is clearly not The Waves. This is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I don't know what happened. I can't even blame it on not having had coffee that morning. So my apologies. This is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I don't know much about it other than the title and that it is a well-regarded Virginia Woolf. And therefore I am excited to get into this one. Don't know what happened. Glad that editing me caught that. That would have been really embarrassing. But back to the regular video, shall we? Continuing on the gorgeous covers train, we have Lote by Shola von Reinhold. A moment for this cover. Stunning. This came out in 2022, and as soon as I heard M from Manuscripts in the Margins talk about this book, I hopped on my little computer and went straight to bookshop.org and purchased it. And I think I just need to read you the description of this book on Storygraph to do it any kind of justice. Lush and frothy, incisive and witty, Shola von Reinhold's decadent queer literary debut immerses readers in the pursuit of aesthetics and beauty while interrogating the removal and obscurement of Black figures from history. Solitary Matilda has long been enamored with the bright young things of the 20s, and throughout her life her attempts at renovation have mirrored their extravagance and artfulness. After discovering a photograph of the forgotten black modernist poet Hermia Druitt, who ran in the same circles as the bright young things that she adores, Matilda becomes transfixed and resolves to learn as much as she can about the mysterious figure. Her search brings her to a peculiar artist residency in Dunn, a small European town Hermia was known to have lived in the 30s. The artist residency throws her deeper into a lattice of secrets and secret societies that takes hold of her aesthetic imagination, but will she be able to break the thrall of her transfictions? From champagne theft and black modernisms to art sabotage, alchemy, and lotus-eating proto-luxury communist cults, Matilda's journey through modes of aesthetic expression guides her to truth and the convoluted ways it is made and obscured. I mean, what else could you want in a book? Sounds like this book has quite a lot going on and quite a lot going for it, in my opinion. So really looking forward to picking this up hopefully soon. Next up are two books by the French author Francois Sagan. The first is The Still Storm. This was published in 1984. I've read Sagan's first two novels that came out in the 1950s, Bonjour Tristesse and A Certain Smile, and I'm curious to see how I find her writing later on in her career. This is reportedly a romance novel set in provincial France, where an aristocratic lady causes quite a scandal when she falls for a celebrated peasant poet. This feels like a potential summer read to me. And then the other Francois Sagan book that I picked up is Dear Sarah Bernhardt, which again, I love this cover. This was published in 1988, and it's Sagan's unique take on an autobiography or biography of the famous actress Sarah Bernhardt. It's apparently written as a series of letters between her and a fictionalized Bernhardt. Curious to see how this one plays out. Next is this tiny but adorable poetry anthology. This is Hand in Hand with Love, an anthology of queer classical poetry, edited by Simon Avery. This came out last year in 2023. And that is the cover. But wait, hold on, I need to show you what it looks like without the dust jacket. I mean, hope you can see that, but as well as the foiled edges. I picked this one up with a mind to read it this coming June for Pride Month. This is a collection of queer poetry from antiquity to the Renaissance to the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries. There are definitely some names that I recognize in here, among them Sappho and Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, Emily Bronte, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Oscar Wilde, Wilfred Owen, but there are also quite a number of names that I don't recognize, so I'm excited to explore those as well. The next one I also picked up recently. This is Speak Memory by Vladamir Nabokov. This is Nabokov's memoir of the first 40 years of his life. It originally came out in 1951, but a revised edition, which my copy is another publication of, or another edition of, came out in 1966 originally. Picked this one up when I was in a bookstore recently shopping for a birthday present for a friend, but just so happened to pick up this book and read the opening lines, and I think I need to share those with you. The cradle rocks above an abyss, and common sense tells us that our existence is but a brief crack of light between two eternities of darkness. Although the two are identical twins, man as a rule views the prenatal abyss with more calm than the one he is headed for at some 4,500 heartbeats an hour. I mean, how could I leave this behind? How could I leave this behind? I've started this one already and am slowly making my way through its richness and decadency, and am enjoying it immensely thus far. Shock, surprise, we have another essay collection. This is The Book of Delights by Ross Gay. This came out in 2019. I've seen a few of Ross Gay's essay collections, I believe, in bookstores previously, and had made a note to pick one of them up. And I finally bit the bullet the last time I was in a bookstore and grabbed this one. This is described as a, quote, spirited collection of short lyrical essays written daily over a tumultuous year, reminding us of the purpose and pleasure of praising, extolling, and celebrating ordinary wonders. And that's something that definitely struck me when I was flipping through it. Most of the essays, it looks like, are either a page or 2 pages at most. And I'm really interested to see what Ross Gay does with the very short essay format, as well as the subject matter of this book. Next we have Art Objects, Essays on Ecstasy and Effrontery by Jeanette Winterson. Gensha, if you're watching this, This one's for you. This was originally published in 1995. This is an essay collection that has come recommended highly by one of you, and I managed to find this incredible edition on Thrift Books. This hardcover. The description of this one reads, quote, "In 10 interlocking essays, Winterson contemplates art as an active force in the world, neither elitist nor remote, available to those who want it and affecting those who don't. Original, personal, and provocative, these essays are not so much a point of view as they are a way of life, revealing a brilliant and deeply feeling artist at work." Looking forward to picking this one up. The next book I want to mention is another one that I came across when I was on Thrift Books, actually when I went to purchase the Jeanette Winterson collection that I just mentioned. And I happened to come across in the section where Thrift Books will recommend you books based on what you have been viewing or purchasing recently, which is a dangerous section, to be honest. And I came across this. This is A Plea for Eros, essays by Siri, I apologize for butchering this last name, Hustvedt. This is an essay collection that came out in 2005, and again, this cover is wonderful. I hadn't heard of this author or this collection before coming across it on Thrift Books, but I dangerously read the description of this and it immediately made its way into my cart. Quote, "A provocative collection of autobiographical and critical essays about writing and writers. Whether her subject is growing up in Minnesota, cross-dressing, or the novel Hustvedt's nonfiction, like her fiction, defies easy categorization, elegantly combining intellect, emotion, wit, and passion. With a light touch and consummate clarity, she undresses the cultural prejudices that veil both literature and life and explores the multiple personalities that inevitably inhabit a writer's mind. Writing with rigorous honesty about her own divided self and how it has shaped her as a writer, she also approaches the works of others, Fitzgerald, Dickens, and Henry James, with revelatory insight and a practitioner's understanding of their art." Yeah, you can probably tell why I couldn't leave this one behind. This has been added to my shelves. Next we have another poetry collection, and this is very bright. I hope that the camera can focus on this. This is Illuminations by Arthur Rimbaud. This was first published in 1875. I've been meaning to pick up a Rimbaud for a few years now. Ironically, I seem to have picked up his final poetry collection rather than his first. But Rimbaud himself is a fascinating fellow. Would definitely recommend looking up his Wikipedia page. He started writing poetry as a teenager and became one of the foremost poets of the symbolist movement. And then by his early 20s, he had given up writing poetry altogether and gone off to become a gun runner in Somalia. Or was it Yemen? It might have been Yemen. Either way, very fascinating life, interesting person, and I'm definitely intrigued to dive into this collection. Next we have another bright yellow book, and this is Words Are My Matter by Ursula K. Le Guin. This came out in 2016. This is a collection of her talks, essays, and book introductions and book reviews by Le Guin. Le Guin is an author that I really admire. Her book Lavinia was one of my absolute favorites of last year, along with her general ethos when it comes to the role of art and artist and the need to imagine different worlds and ways of living. I definitely see her as a writer role model. Quote, "Hard times are coming when we'll be wanting the voices of writers who can see alternatives to how we live now, can see through our fear-stricken society and its obsessive technologies to other ways of being, and even imagine real grounds for hope. We'll need writers who can remember freedom, poets, visionaries, realists of a larger reality." I'm really looking forward to spending time with this collection and more time with Le Guin as a writer. And then would you believe it, another essay collection. This is also one that I picked up on a recent trip to a bookstore. This is one that, again, I hadn't heard of before, but when I came across it in the essay section of the bookstore, read the back, it immediately jumped into my basket. This came out in 2020, and I'll read you part of the back that grabbed me and convinced me to pick it up. Did I even tell you the title of this one? This is The Unreality of Memory and Other Essays by Elisa Gabbert. Apologies. I was so excited to tell you about this. Quote, "We stare at our phones, we keep multiple tabs open, our chats and conversations are full of the phrase, 'Did you see?' The feeling that we're living in the worst of times seems to be intensifying alongside a desire to know precisely how bad things have gotten, and each new catastrophe distracts us from the last. The Unreality of Memory collects provocative, searching essays on disaster culture, climate anxiety, and our mounting collective sense of doom. In this new collection, acclaimed poet and essayist Elisa Gabbert explores our obsessions with disasters past and future, from the sinking of the Titanic to Chernobyl, from witch hunts to the plague. These deeply researched prophetic meditations question how the world will end, if indeed it will, and why we can't stop fantasizing about it. Can we avoid repeating history? Can we understand our moment from inside the moment? With The Unreality of Memory, Gabbert offers a hauntingly perceptive analysis of our new ways of being and a means of reconciling ourselves with this unreal new world. Yeah, this definitely grabbed my attention, and I definitely have plans to pick this up soon. Alright folks, those are the books, 15 books that I have picked up in the past 6 or 7 weeks and wanted to share them with you. Let me know if you have read any of them in the comments below. You can also let me know, have you purchased any books that you're really excited about recently? Let me know in the comments. But I hope you all are doing well, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.